Hello, everyone. It's
Konbanwa,
Saturday
mina.
night. Hello.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Yeah. And that means it
Yo
is
quiero es
time.
biblioteca or something.
Right, sure. It's time for the Weekly Dig. For anyone new to the
Indeed.
stream, this is a live show where we dig into anime, old and new. I'm Brent. These are my fabulous co-hosts, John. Say hi, John.
Hello. Hi, John.
And Steve.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. So let's start our dig tonight by analyzing an anime movie that we all watched this week, Makoto Shinkai's Your Name, Kimi no Nawa, which was for a while the highest-grossing anime film of all time, until a little Mugen Train pulled into the station.
Yeah.
But kind of came out of nowhere because Makoto Shinkai was known for doing more quiet, introspective, sort of speculative fiction works. Probably his big breakout work was Voices of a Distant Star, which is a 30-minute science fiction story about, ironically, a boy and a girl who are sort of separated in a very fantastical way, that he drew entirely himself. So Voice of a Distant Star, he animated every frame, he colored it all, he made all of it. The boy and the
No
girl.
production assistants? No,
Nope.
nothing?
It was all him.
Holy.
And the boy and the girl are voiced by him and his
Why?
wife.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because because he didn't know anyone in the industry. He'd done a short film before that. There's a few minutes long. I think Rain, the Girl in My Letter or something like that is the name.
Okay.
And then he made this as kind of his next challenge. And it's amazingly done, like all the colors and so forth.
Yeah.
And then when that kind of blew up, he decided to sort of start a studio. And he said he was a little worried because he loves putting detail into his drawings,
Right.
and he wasn't sure if he could find
Yeah.
he could maintain that level. But everyone he hired is, as he said, just as obsessed with adding detail as he is, which, as we can see in Your Name.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about some various aspects of the film. We'll have to go through it sort of more or less sequentially because it is very much a film that kind of reveals itself to you over time.
Yeah.
What experiences had you guys seen Your Name before watching it this week?
Nope. Knew nothing about it. Like literally nothing about it. Like I
Wow.
didn't know it was the top seller anime,
Yeah.
and still kind of surprises me. But
We'll talk about that.
having watched it, yeah. But yeah, I watched it, and I'm glad we do have the spoiler alert warning up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right,
there.
good. So I'm very glad that we had the ending that we had in this movie, because otherwise I was just going to rage beast mode and just be like, I hate the world.
They tease you for like 15 solid minutes at the end of
Yes,
this
they
film.
do.
Yeah.
John, how about you?
It was another one of those panels where it's here are films that you might want to consider watching.
Mhm.
And Your Name came up, and I was like, yeah, okay, let's give it a wing.
Mhm.
And watched it and cried, and then watched it again, cried again. Oh
Nice.
at least I'm consistent.
Yeah, I did see this in theaters when it came out over here.
Oh, I bet that would have been
Yeah, that was
something.
a great.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I take that back. I did not see this in theaters. I saw Weathering with You in theaters. Your Name did
Which
not
still
come
would
out
have
in
been
theaters,
amazing.
but yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, it was. But yeah, Your Name is because I remember when it came out, there was a big deal about it. When Your Name came out, that it immediately got cam rips everywhere, and folks were like, "Do not watch a cam rip of this movie," because just the detail and the quality and so forth is just
Yeah.
it sucks, and then that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So let's talk about how this movie starts, because I always find that an interesting thing, because it does start with the comet, and it's interesting rewatching the movie now with that context because this is a very anime opening of just special effects.
Yeah.
That we've seen in a dozen things. You're like, oh, okay, that looks nice, and when you know what that is, you're like, oh. But it is a gorgeous shot, which they then are able to reuse later to great effect.
Which when I first saw this,
Yeah.
like that's what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, how is the story ending before?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Is this
Well,
like a
so-
look back kind of thing? Like
Mhm.
after a cataclysmic
Kind of is.
disaster occurs? I'm like, hell's
Well,
going on?
Yeah, so I'm watching this beautiful thing like dropping out of the sky, and then it's going through the clouds, and it's just wonderful music that's playing, and you're seeing all this imagery, and it's coming down, and then it shows the town around a crater lake,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh, well, clearly that's an impact crater that's filled in with water,
Mm-hmm.
and here's whatever comet it came from initially is coming back again. Here it is dropping down, and then it cuts to
Tokyo.
Yeah, Tokyo. Was it Tokyo or was it? It's the girl first, right?
No, it's Tokyo
Yeah.
first.
Yeah,
I believe.
Tokyo.
Okay. It's just hard well, because it keeps cutting back and forth. Like
Yeah.
If I recall, like you see a shot of Tokyo, then you see her, then you see him, and so you're kind of bouncing.
Okay, yeah. And so you're just like going, okay.
Yeah.
Is the town Itamori? Was that the name of the town?
I think that is the name.
Itamori, yeah.
Which,
Itamori.
by the way, is fictional, but it is based. Again, they went to a real town for the for like location scouting.
And then they destroyed it with a comet shot, just to see what we get out of this.
Exactly.
Oh, you bastards.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. But we get all these images of just this. What's interesting is what I thought is a boy and a girl, but it's actually a man and a woman, because they're grown up in this at this point, waking up, kind of going about their mornings, and just kind of doing things, and we get those moments of saying, "I'm always looking for something." I'm always just searching, and I think we all have had that feeling at times, and so it helps to sort of draw us in a little bit. I also like some of the symbolism that he throws into here, like the fact that, like in one of these very early shots, one of the things he goes over and over is you see framed in the shot the little sticker of "Be careful of doors opening and closing."
Yeah. And don't run. Do not run to get
Right.
into the train.
Yes. But be careful of doors opening and closing. Right. Like that's very much a theme of the film.
Yeah.
And then also this repeated shot of literally a door opening or closing in the film. Of like watching that going in and out is a thing. So I just love that he's referencing that. And then and again you see the shot of Taki standing on the roof, seeing not just the comet but also the split off of the comet. And the first time through he's like, "Oh, that's pretty."
Fire and death can be pretty from afar.
Sure can.
Deadly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
It's
you
a
see
disaster.
her.
Those people, not me.
Right, exactly. And you see her standing out there, which again, I think it's smart for the film to throw this imagery at you so that when it actually happens, there's some familiarity to it.
So I just have to ask. I wonder when the Chinese rocket falls, will it be beautiful?
Yeah, exactly. yeah. History repeating itself. And I like because later on there's that line where somebody says, the chances of it hitting anything are so unlikely.
Yeah.
Surprise!
Foreshadowing.
Which is what we hear all the time, of course, when anything like this happens. Like, well, yeah, a piece of something's coming down, but the chances are just low. Well, still a chance. And then you get opening credit sequence.
Low according to whose definition? Like,
Right,
it's not going to hit Tokyo. It's going to hit somewhere.
But we get an actual opening credit sequence to this movie. It's just the characters going back and forth, walking around to music by Radwimps, doing the thing. Which, by the way, if you've seen, or if you're familiar with that, so Radwimps did the soundtrack to this. If you've seen the English version, it is sung in English.
Yeah.
And Radwimps actually went back and translated themselves all of the lyrics into English so that it would be accurate.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you're getting that.
It actually fooled me for a second there. I thought it was another band. I thought it was a U.S. band for a moment. They did pretty well. And it was I was shocked to find it was their 8th album, something like that.
And to be clear, I don't know. They may have hired an English singer, an English vocalist for those tracks. I don't know, So I'm not sure if like they did it or if Funimation like found somebody to sing that. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And so you get this whole bizarre opening credit sequence, frankly. And then we jump right in, and this is one of the things I find really interesting. So again, this came out in 2016. I remember when that happened. And if you've seen the trailer for Your Name, it basically lays out the premise of the film. That they're swapping bodies, basically. And so the film kind of jumps right into it. It doesn't, have them going about their lives and seeing them in school and all that kind of stuff. Really the first major scene in the film is him waking up as Mizuha.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious.
Yeah. And it should be pointed out, like, it opens, with this pan up her body, seeing most of her legs, and then, the I guess it's a nightdress, sort of falling off her shoulders. There's a little bit of etchiness there, I would say. And then what does he do?
Wah, wah.
Gets more etchy than that.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it does.
When this came on at, and it was PG-13, and one of the things was like sexual themes, I was like, no, wait, no, there's, I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he kind of feels himself up.
Much
is
to
very-
Mizuha's little sister,
Just-
her
oh,
horror.
God.
What are you doing?
Wait, you like your boobies, don't you?
Yeah. And I like that they made
Gohan!
I like that they made her young enough that she is in a very different mental state to her sister.
Yeah.
Like she's very much just a little kid, but old enough that she's not like crawling around or anything. Like she has agency. She can go on. She's I think like 3rd grade or something maybe in this. So I think that was a good choice.
She's old enough to be sassy.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Very much so. That is kind of her job in the film. And then he looks at himself. And then you get this shot, which again I think is sort of Makoto Shinkai flexing a little bit, cutting the tomato.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gods! Like all the detail of that tomato and the seeds and all the stuff coming out.
Well, even just in the flash as you're going through Mizuha's room,
Yeah.
it just all clothing hanging on the rack, stuff on the walls, like all those little bits and pieces that you never get a chance to see for anything more than a split second that you're really paying attention to, and yet it's still there.
And how the light is coming in and illuminating things.
Yeah.
There's that wonderful,
Yeah.
golden glow to things. Oh.
I mean, you're so focused like in that image right there. You're so focused on what's going on in the center of it that you don't even notice the beauty of the detail all around her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's not just random stuff. Like this is a girls' room. Like there's girls' accoutrement stuff in here, as opposed to Taku's room where he's got. I love it. His pants are sprawled out somewhere on the floor. It's a guy.
Disorder.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you see just that gorgeous. And again, I love how they're hinting things where then you see Yotsuha and their grandmother getting together, and you see this lovely Japanese garden.
Oh yeah.
Very
Boy, that's nice.
traditional Japanese garden. Like, okay, this is clearly a very traditional group. And then of course she comes in with her messy hair. And I love this moment again. If you've seen it before, Taku's coming in there like, oh, this is okay. Like I've got this figured out. Like it's all fine. I'm just gonna go and have my rice and stuff. When everyone's like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Like,
What are you doing today?
Yeah.
And talking to himself. Oh, is that enough? Oh, that's maybe too much. No, I'm good. Like, I don't think Mitsuha ever said that to anybody in her entire life.
No.
So, I think, and now this is something I meant to look up. Now I've seen it twice. Is not only do you have a disaster radio, I've heard of those like for the Midwest for Tornado Alley that they have dedicated radios that will turn on when there's an alert, but their radio is also connected to the loudspeaker that apparently yells at the entire town. Like, I mean, it's
Welcome
not an emergency.
to Japan.
It's just like it's like community bulletin. It's not like, hey, there's something terrible going on. It's just like, and today in Itomori, blah 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 blah. It's like, I think I might not like that kind of civic mindedness. Like, shut up.
Apparently, that is a thing in a lot of places. It's actually a problem in the Toku earthquake, where when some of the warnings came in, folks ignored them. Because they're like,
so used to stuff like this.
Another drill or whatever. So,
Right.
yeah, it can be a problem.
There's a bake sale today at the high school, and by the way, there's a comet coming.
Yeah.
Oh, a bake sale? No, did you miss the second part?
And then she goes to school, and again, we're getting kind of the introduction to her world, the situation she's in, and all that kind of stuff. The situation with her father, all just kind of built up there. And you see, and I didn't realize this until after the movie because I haven't seen it yet. You spend a fair amount of time with their teacher. Can anyone guess why we do that?
Because of all the foreshadowing of the teachers writing on the blackboard through the whole thing.
Part of it. Also because that is the main female character of the Garden of Words.
Oh, did not know that.
Oh,
That's her. Who is a teacher and apparently that is that is literally her. She teaches at this school, which is pretty cool. That he kind of inserted a character from another movie into this movie.
yeah, that's really cool.
So
And not just image-wise, just like if that. So it's actually her.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is canonically
Her.
in her timeline. Yes, and the male character apparently shows up in a crowd scene later on as well.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
wow.
that's
really cool.
Yeah, and so you've got all these little moments as they're dealing with stuff. I also really like this moment where, if it will do it, it will not do it for me here for some reason. When
Who are you?
Yeah, when you get that moment of who are you on there, because that is a great little sort of science fiction moment. A great little like, oh, that's weird. That would be a strange discovery in stuff.
That was about the time I was like going, oh, this kind of reminds me of the Keanu Reeves movie. Was it Lake
The
House?
Lake House.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so again, you get kind of more of them figuring out what's going on here. And again, I think if you've seen the trailer, you know what's going on. So I don't think you need to belabor the point, but they're just kind of setting all that up.
Right.
I just feel like if I woke up one morning and I saw my cell phone, like, little notes to myself going, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and saying going, how much did I drink last night? Why am I, oh God, what's going on here?
So this is what having a mental breakdown looks like.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
Well, we know that Mizuha at least creates alcohol. Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
mhm.
In the old form of chew and spit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They didn't have Burgod then.
Nope.
No.
So we get more about the thing. We started introducing the themes here when they're doing the chords and creating all the chords. We get these themes of chords binding things. And for what it's worth, the idea of being bound to somebody else by a red cord
The red
has
string of fate.
a long tradition in Japanese sort of mythology and spirituality and such. So folks are well aware of that. And then you get a little look into Japanese politics for a moment there. With you can count on your support, right? Here's your beer. I love it.
Which Tessie just comes out and says it. Like,
Yeah.
little corruption. Like, what?
Yeah, I love that English up. Smells like corruption in there. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Like, dude, you're not
Don't
supposed
worry
to
that
say
you got the. I mean, it just sounded so New York. It's like, yeah, we got the ducks for you.
Totally. It's pretty amazing. But that is, and for what it's worth, this is known to be a common thing in a lot of areas in Japan, and stuff that a lot of folks have been trying to deal with and so forth. So,
Well, also for a tiny town,
Yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
usual issues
Yeah.
about living in small communities. Everybody knows everybody else's business.
Exactly.
And, you know, in those kind of circumstances, some people, yeah, they will tend to be the mayor repeatedly because they know everybody's business. Everybody knows your business.
Yeah.
Keep just going the way it's going.
And then you get the lovely Shrine Maiden dance.
Oh, yeah, that was beautiful.
Which I think is probably rotoscoped a little bit. Some
Yeah,
movements
it had
a
to have
little
been.
bit. Yeah.
That
Had to
or
have
they
been-
just spent an
that was-
insane amount of time animating it.
Exactly.
Right.
Gosh.
And this was one of the things that I appreciated for the movie the most, was that, you know, of course the background animation was amazing throughout this entire movie is just amazing, but this actual shrine dance, which they honestly did not have to do.
No.
This whole scene did not have to happen, and it's a good 5 minutes.
It goes
Or
on for a while. Yeah.
yeah, and it goes on, and it's just it's just so beautiful, and you know, and going on, and then it's just like kind of disrupted a little bit by her classmates who are just kind of like, she
Yeah.
can't, and it's just like going, okay, this is like the only thing that your town does.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not like you don't know this, and it's not like you don't. I mean, come on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you making fun? But still, the animation of it, of just her in the dress, and then you know with the shaker bell,
Yep.
and you know, just it was just, oh my god, it
And
was
the coordination of her and her sister.
sister.
And it's not just done like sort of copy rendering.
Right.
So it's like
Right,
their
yeah,
movements are the
right.
same.
No.
They're
Yeah.
No, they're
done
off
in,
a
like
little.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's like so that if you didn't rotoscope again, rotoscoping and just doubling the image would have been the easiest way to go. Animating it and just doubling the image would have been a little easier.
Nope.
But no, they went in the whole log.
And you
Yeah.
can't because you got like an 8-year-old and a 17-year-old. So,
So
yeah.
they're going to be. I mean, it's just like the thought process
Yeah.
of that. Be like, I can't imagine that team meeting another one of those situations.
Yeah.
Like, I want this high detail. I want this done really well, and I want there to be slight imperfections of how they're moving. Like what?
And you'll probably just see some of the animators going, these guys.
How many
why?"
years do we have for this?
Yes.
So we're pulling another 95-hour week.
Right. And it should be pointed out, and that's another thing we get to. Working conditions at Comics Wave. The interesting thing about this too is, you don't typically have 8-year-old shrine maidens, right? So what they're communicating to here is this is it. Like, there aren't a whole bunch of teenage girls in the town to be able to do this or whatever. Like, this is how it's going to be. And the fact is they establish it's a family thing, right?
And they set the story up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at that point, the grandmother sets the story up about, of course, as you like to point, and here's the pointer, and saying that the shrine was, or there was a great fire, and then all the temple records were destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
So we just know that this is just the ritual, and then and that's kind of like, and I'm kind of going, no, I figured this out already, because you see the cradling, you see the comic, you're just like,
Yeah.
no, all those notes were about the stupid comet. It's all about the stupid comet. He's telling you from 1,200 years ago, run!
Exactly. Well, and this is actually, and again, the thing that came out of the Great
Take your
Tohoku
spit
Earthquake,
liquor and get out of town.
is that there were festivals from the Great Tohoku Earthquake where all of their traditional stuff was destroyed. And they don't have anything to rebuild from. They don't have plans for which they can rebuild that, dragon mask that they've had for 800 years. So they had to just kind of remake it based on what everyone remembered in a photo somebody took in 1983. So yeah, this is a thing that's happened at times where it's just like, okay, we just got to kind of guess. Yeah, and so for those wondering what we're talking about, in this procedure, the maidens actually chew rice and then spit it back out, and then it gets fermented and turned into sake, which was a thing. That is a process, and it is a religious ritual in some forms of Shinto and so forth, not universal. But
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was Anthony Bourdain went to the Amazon in one of his shows, and people were chewing. What was it, taro?
Oh, okay.
I think
Something
they're
like
chewing
that, yeah.
taro and spitting it into a bowl and then leaving it for a number of days for it to ferment, and then drinking the liquor from that. It's
And
like so.
It's just based on
That's
the
a thing.
enzymes. It's just based on the enzymes of your spit just breaking down
Yeah.
and then causing fermentation.
Gotcha. And to be clear, I'm sure once it ferments, any germs are going to be dealt with during that fermentation process.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully.
Anything that survives will end humanity,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
unless humanity's ended by a comet falling from the.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and so Makoto Shinkai has said he feels this film is kind of unfinished and kind of rough. And one of the ways in which I kind of agree with that is when Yotsuha talks about how she can market this by and then they show the little ad thrown up there, which they do like twice in the movie and then completely forget to do any other time in the movie of these little images in their heads. So I can see it being one of those things like, oh, this would be fun, and then, oh yeah, we just forgot to dot that I later on. That's fine.
Well, I love her tongue sticking out. Like what? Shrine Maiden booze. Great.
Exactly. And again, this is all really to establish kind of the cuteness of all of this and the characters and such.
The rural aspect of
Yeah.
shrine maidenhood in
Yeah.
a small town and little town politics and how quaint.
Which is why when we then jump to Taku,
Big man in Tokyo.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
to your point, you see his room and you see this, steel chair and this very different environment.
Very modern.
Very modern.
Which I thought was really interesting when when Mitsuha and Yotsuha get at the bottom of the stairs, she's like, I wish I was a hot guy in Tokyo.
Right. Yes.
And then bang, here's Taki. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh.
Yep.
I had forgotten about that when I saw it the first time. The second time, I'm like, wow, if only you knew.
Exactly. Yes. Well, and that's one of the interesting things is I wonder where what they're kind of trying to Taki, sorry, because if that had happened first, and then you saw Taki, you think, oh, it's wish fulfillment.
Right.
But he jumps before that happens. So I think it's interesting that they're saying there's clearly something going on there.
Ah, but she said that 3 years
That's true.
before.
Right.
he
That
jumped.
is a good point. That is a very good point.
I paid attention.
Yes.
How unusual.
And so she finds out what's going on, or gets a sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
Sees her new world, and then starts interacting. And again, it's kind of the same kind of thing, but now we're in Tokyo.
A guy's Tokyo.
Yeah.
Laundry laying on the
Mm-hmm.
floor. No idea if it's clean or dirty. I like the Jumbotron too in the square.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
everything on the Jumbotron is the actual company names.
Yes.
So it's not like Sony or Panaphonics or like some kind of like goofy ass thing, something that they've done to the names. No, they're all the actual companies. I'm like, oh, sponsorship.
Right,
That's
probably.
on this one. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in case folks aren't sure about this, watch the credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all up there. And there are also these other little things, again, I didn't pick up until this time, is that Mizuho walks in on all of these people eating fast food at lunch at high school.
Yeah.
How bizarre must that be for her? Right? Like, how could you possibly get fast food, like, delivered to your high school? That's Tokyo for you.
Well, how about going to the cafe after school?
Yeah.
She was so excited about that.
as him freaks out. Well, how freaked out was she when Tessie was like, "Yeah, let's go to the cafe."
Yeah.
And there's like, "What?" And it's the coffee machine by the bus.
It's a coffee machine and two chairs, run down chairs, and they're just like,
Yeah.
eh.
And it's just like, so it's just amazing to think of like, yeah, that would be totally normal in a city. You go to Starbucks, get your coffee, do whatever else. Versus some little town, you might have a diner
Yeah.
that might have
None on
black
New York.
coffee or whatever. Yeah.
Right?
You've got
Nowhere.
the candy store.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yep.
Kaide's got her shop, and that's the only game in town.
Yep. Yeah, and then you get, and again, one of the things I didn't notice is that Taki works at this very fancy Italian restaurant named Il Giardino del Parole, the Garden
Which
of
means-
Words.
Oh, good night.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn.
Okay. All right.
Jeez.
All right. You know, connecting the dots. That's cute.
We're doing this whole paprika thing again.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Perfect
much.
blue and everything else on the marquees. Like, wait a minute here.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then you meet I'm forgetting her name. The
Okudera.
Yeah, Okudera. Thank you, Miki Okudera. Who I thought was more. Who I did not realize was a university student. She seemed much older in this.
Yeah.
But she's just a couple years older than he is. And you get introduced to the fact that they now have a little thing going on. Taki certainly has a thing with her.
Little crush.
Little crush going on. And so, of course, Taki uses his ability to sew to fix her her skirt.
Skirt.
Yeah, so with that as the result, be like,
Yeah, exactly. Just picked this up yesterday, huh? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
He can't even fold his own clothes as a guy. And yet bangs out this amazing sewing job. Like, okay.
Yeah. And again,
I love doing macrame at home.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
And again, just this tiny little back room, full of all the records and all this kind of stuff, just all those details thrown in.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
everything on the wall is unnecessary, but it's all there. You know what I mean? It's like you could get by without having any of that detail.
And I just noticed something that, again, I just love throwing in these things. It is 10:17 on that clock. So that's how late Taki is staying out for his job.
Okay.
It's not a numerical.
I thought you were
numerology.
going to say
Oh!
something like, "Oh, this is another thing that
Yeah,
references
no.
this." Like, oh God.
No. But so he's going to school and going and
working
working
late.
until 10 p.m. on this job because it's all about the money. Because he's single parent, not a lot of cash flowing in, obviously.
Yeah.
But they want to have one hell of an apartment though, with that patio.
Yeah, no kidding. The rooftop thing is pretty nice.
And that money from that Italian restaurant is paying for that patio.
Yeah, exactly.
There
yeah.
we go.
Very well might be. Yeah, and so movie continues on from there. They keep waking up in each other's bodies. They start establishing their rules for how to behave. And then Mizuha goes, no baths, no looking. Fair enough.
Which I would have thought, and it's not a general comment about the film. It's just it's conceptual. My own thinking is like,
Yeah.
I would have thought you would have really, really quickly before writing the rules down said, okay, what is your full name? Where do you live? What is your phone number? What is the date? You know what I mean? Establish like ground elements of like what is this? Rules about how you interact with being each other comes later, but figuring all the base information out first, that then he would have, if he had known that, looked up Inamori.
Right.
And then
Right.
early on in this been like, oh, how is this possible that you're in a town that got destroyed? And you know what I mean? So
Right.
this whole thing would have come up earlier as a discussion.
Although one of the things they do establish is the fact that it does feel very dreamlike to them. So I kind of took from that okay, they're not fully processing their situation. They're not fully asking those questions because they're just kind of like they understand that they're switching bodies, but they're not like in full investigation mode when they're doing this. It's just like, okay, I'm just gonna let this go. Dream logic, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but
That-
that's
that was
not
my
one
thing.
dream. That's like repeatedly this keeps happening. Like
Right.
that tells you there's significance there.
Right.
Like,
But
well,
what I
this
mean is,
would-
I think every single time they're still in dream logic. They're still not. They're still a little foggy. I think.
Yeah, I mean this movie. One of my things with this movie was that there has to be a suspension of disbelief on a level that you're probably higher than used to.
Right. Yep.
And it's kind of like for example, the whole fact that nobody talks about Itomori or where the town name is being based around a impact crater and
Right.
talking about a comet, and like for me, I would have been like, at some point, I would have put two and two together and just said, "Oh, do we need to worry about this?" Because you've learned later on that the shrine, the relic, is inside of another impact crater, which clearly means that this has happened not once but
This
twice.
comet really hates
Right.
that town.
And this is
that down.
and this is where I think it's worth pointing out that and again, because I completely agree. And I think it's one of those things where if somebody in the movie had said, "Yeah, this has happened, but what are the odds?" Basically, right? Like, we figure it's fine. People live in flood zones all the time. Not a big deal. I'm like, okay, at least people have acknowledged it, but they're kind of, explaining it away. But nobody does. So it's kind of like, So yeah, again, I think they're just kind of not really. They didn't quite dot all the I's and cross all the T's on the plot there.
Which does not in any way take away from the entertaining aspect of the film at all.
Right.
It's just,
and
there are those
actually,
interesting thought processes that go along with watching it.
And actually, going back to the dream logic. They really do ask about. Well, wait a minute. What did I do the day before? When their friends are going, "Oh, guess what you did?" And most normal people are going, "Oh God, I shouldn't have had that 10th drink." But it's just. I guess there is that fuzzy logic that is there that you don't ask for the things, but she seems to figure out pretty quickly, as opposed to him,
right,
where he is.
Right.
Yeah.
So I never.
Well,
when I watched the movie, I never figured out how she was able to figure that one out.
Well, I think it's because
was it explained?
Well, no, but I think it's because it's Tokyo. Like Tokyo is
Right.
just so well known across that you just
Right.
you see Shibuya and you're like, oh, I'm in Tokyo. Whereas this is just some random town somewhere. I have no idea.
Yeah, her likelihood of going into Tokyo and then sort of piecing things together from the things she's seen, it's interesting. It's like in her time gap, apparently they didn't have the same kind of search ability for things. Like he's using more online-ish kind of things, and it's like, was
Right.
she able to go onto Google and figure out exactly where all the things where the cafe was, where everything else? Because she spends a lot of time wandering around.
Well, I think the reason for that is that she's looking for him specifically,
Right.
and she doesn't she isn't able to connect, where all that is, and so she has a vague idea. Again, we were in Shibuya, we were in whatever. So I think she doesn't necessarily know the address of the cafe. So she's kind of wandering around to get a sense of, oh, that's where it is. That's where I was.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But
I think she'd
but-
head for the school,
but
beeline to the school, be like,
yeah.
which
Well,
3 years ago, he would not have been in high school.
Right. Yeah.
He would have been in
Right.
middle school, and she only knows the high school, so she would have to have figured out, okay, what middle school feeds to what high school.
Right. Yeah. Right, yeah. Mhm.
Right. But they both know how to get home.
True. Mm-hmm.
So how does he not know the address? He knows how to get there. He eventually learns how to
Right.
get there.
Yeah.
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 So it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
These are just going, okay, we go.
Mhm.
Just continue on.
Yep. Yep.
It's
Exactly.
very, very pretty.
Yeah.
It's very, very pretty.
very pretty. And fun as they're kind of getting thing. And I love that. You're an idiot.
When will this nightmare ever end?
Exactly.
If you've never, for those of you who have never had to try to actually hold a platter in one hand or two plates in one hand and going up and down stairs as a waiter,
Yeah.
trust me, it is a nightmare because there's one thought going through your mind. Not that you're going to fall down and break your neck, that you're going to fall down and drop the dishes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is worse.
Mm-hmm.
Which is worse.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and then we get this switch over to the fall, the absurdly gorgeous scene among the trees as they're walking through. And one of the things, again, as an animation, from an animation perspective, you can note that the gaps in the light that they're falling on them also are not consistent. You know, they're not just slapping that on top of them and then moving it. They're literally animating it with their bodies. Which, like,
Yeah, which is
insane.
Kudos to them.
Kudos. Absolutely. As they walk through and get the sense of things, and some of these shots, I'm amazed are animation. The level of detail, the level of complexity, how they're doing camera work is just. I was like, is that real? No, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's animated. Jeez. Yeah, and this is where we get the shrine itself. Moving forward, and then we get another great little moment where Shinkai just sort of changes things around, where the grandmother looks at Mizuha and is like, "Well, no, you're dreaming right now. Like, that's not you."
Yeah, it was kind of a cryptic thing to say.
Yeah, weird thing.
Yep, and then which is where Taki wakes up. And so you have the date, which is cute and fun, which does not go the way he expects.
Because he's an idiot.
And I do love the foreshadowing here, which very much is, of all these photographs of the town that are on the wall that he stops in and looks at, which are all in black and white, very somber, like, you know, an epitaph, you know, like a remembrance, you know, and he's just like, oh, pictures, pretty pictures, like a teenager would. Like, I'm not complaining about that, but just another little clue to the audience that something happened here. There's a reason why this stuff is hanging.
Well, when Mizuha and they're going to go to the cafe with Tessie and everybody else, they pass by the bridge. They pass by all these scenes that you see just briefly in the photographs, and that you see later on that Taki's involved with. And it's you know what I mean? It's like, it's just interesting because it doesn't click. Here he's looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
He basically recreates those pictures. And it still doesn't, like, you looked right at the thing. Like, it says right above it, you know, what region this thing happened in. And it's like, and you just let it kind of slide by? Like, good observation skills, kid.
Right.
Truck-kun's going to be on your future real fast.
And where I do appreciate, again, because we're how far into this movie at this point? We're
almost halfway.
Almost halfway. We're 42 minutes into the film at this point, and so here's where we have our turn, and here's where we have our plot flip, where Mizuha cuts her hair and goes to the festival, we get the moment where the comet goes over and breaks off, and she sees it, and Taki stops connecting with her.
Yeah.
And it's over. And again, smart visuals, because it breaks off and it's red. And it looks ominous at that point. And she sees that, angry if you will. And she sees it and her eyes go wide. Not just with, oh, that's pretty, but just what's going on? Like this, and then to have him just, that's it.
Yeah.
There's some foreboding for you. Very well done. And so you go into the rest of the sequence where he's trying to figure out what's going on.
And here he is recreating the town,
Yep.
which he's bloody well seen in pictures on the wall.
Yep. And it is interesting that kind of this idea that, and again, product placement, this idea that when you're jumping into somebody else's life, how many details do you actually notice about, like, things around them, right? Like, you know, how many times do I notice the names of the streets around here? You know, if I paid attention to, I would, but it wouldn't like register in my regular life.
Well, how many times do most of us even know the names of streets that we go down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we just know how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen what we're doing. We've been
Yep.
that route.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I run into that frequently. People are like, "Oh, how do I get like from here to here to there?" And I'm like, "Well, you go down. There's an intersection with a light. And you take a left, and then you go down to the next intersection. You go straight through it, and
when
then
you-
you'll find like an on ramp. They're like streets. I'm like, I don't know the street names.
And we see the cat with the donut, then that's when you know
Yeah,
you need
pretty
to
much.
take a slight right. Not
Right.
a right,
Mhm.
but a slight right.
Yes. Exactly.
You're gonna see a person with a shopping cart and my truck is broken down. I need gas money. Turn left at them, and then go up to the next intersection. Yeah, that's. Yeah. So yeah, that's absolutely true. That you're not necessarily going to necessarily know those small details, but
Mhm.
wow, you
Yeah.
know anything. This
Mhm.
isn't a once in a lifetime thing that you've done one
Mhm.
time. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do. You've been in and out of her life enough.
And
And I think you would have oriented better than this.
And this is where I appreciate, and what I suspect they would have kind of dropped is that because there is the plot point later that the memories start to fade.
Yeah.
In fact, at this point, when he realizes that she died, his memories start to fade. And so, if they'd established that once they wake up, like they're vaguely aware of what happened, like they know it
Yeah.
happened, but they can't remember any details, fine. That doesn't seem to be the case. So yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting that they were able to message each other back and forth.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that since he was messaging her in her notebook,
Well-
that's hard copy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Mm-hmm.
What happens with the memories fading and
Yeah.
issues occurring digitally
Mm-hmm.
makes some bit of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, what happened to all the hard copy?
Well,
I mean, that's what I would love
but
to
that's
see.
that's in the past, right? All the hard copy stuff is 3 years ago.
That got set on fire.
Right.
Because he
Yeah.
yeah, because he kept everything in the digital diary.
Mhm. Yep.
I don't think, other than the photos of the region that he was trying to match up with his drawings, I don't really know that there was anything that she, other than writing on him,
Right.
on his arm and
Mhm.
stuff, there wasn't anything necessarily that she wrote down that
Nope.
that we're shown
Yeah.
that was a hard copy of something. Because I would love to have seen that.
Right. Yeah.
With the
See all
hard
that
copy just go blank.
Mhm.
Like,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, so you get the whole sequence of them discovering all this, and I will give them full credit. I expected in this sequence for there to be like, okay, something bad happened. Hopefully they're okay. You know, hopefully something happened, whatever. But no, we get the record of the dead, and we see her name right there. Like
her grandmother, her sister,
Yeah.
Tessie.
mhm, yeah, all done. And it's an interesting thing to do halfway through your movie, because
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, what do you do? Like, is this just going to be a movie about this unrequited love? How do you move forward from this?
You tell the story of a young man with a shattered soul, and
Yeah.
the rest of his life sucks. Oh,
Which
wow.
I mean,
sounds
you
like
know,
a film I want to see.
which he's done before. You know, so he certainly could have done that. But then no, he's able to kind of figure out what to do. He goes back and connects up with her by going to the shrine and drinking the sake.
Which kudos to Okadera.
Mm-hmm.
She goes the extra mile to help him
Yeah,
out
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when she's becoming more and more aware that it's like she's not the object of his affection anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When she could easily just been like, okay, it's obviously it's done. The
Mhm.
little sparkle is gone, and we'll just
Mhm.
move on with our lives. No, she's there backing him up through this part of the adventure. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, she got to meet the mascot.
yes, she did. Oh, he's so cute, and it moved. I do kind of
Yeah.
wonder whether she ended up marrying his friend with the glasses.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pay close enough attention to the montage sequence at the end to get a sense. 'Cause I'm sure they hinted that somewhere. But yeah, so he does that, and of course we all know what's going to happen at this point, right? Like the fait accompli that he is going to connect up. But we get this amazing sequence the visual sequence of the connection with the chord. And for me, this is kind of what Shinkai does really well. He's primarily a visual storyteller. He loves the detail. He loves the art. And so he can use these visuals to get across these ideas of connection, of threads, literally, between people.
Yeah. It's an amazing. It's visually, it's an amazing sequence.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like, whoa.
Yeah. And they're using multiple mediums here. Like there's something that looks like chalk. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we get all this history. Like we now find out what happened with Mizuha's past. There's something that was hinted at before. The death of her mother. All these things happening.
Her father rejecting the priesthood.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and like not just that, like the grandmother rejecting him.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I did not sign up for this, and she's like, then get out. And it's like, okay. Oh.
And he left his dragonfly hat behind.
Yeah, that's true.
See, from Princess Kaguya, that dragonfly hat.
Okay. And so then we then go through all the stuff. And so he's able to wake back up with this moment of clutching his breast and crying, which I'll admit made me laugh. As touching as
what
it
made
was.
me what made me laugh hysterically is when the little sister opens up and she's just like, and he's just like in her body and she's like, oh. I probably, if I would have been the little sister, I would have been like, no.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
That's a hard no.
Yeah, just drunk, running away. Which is exactly what she does. She's like, I'm going to school now. I'm
not dealing with this at all. I'm just goodbye.
Yeah.
Oba-chan, Mitsuha's crazy again.
So now we get a bit more of a pointer scene of all the background of what's going on here. And Tadaki's like, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna figure out a way of changing history, and resetting what happened. Which is this long, fun scene. And I should also point out, if you look closely at the little club room that they're in when they're trying to figure out all the stuff going on, there's some fun little stuff in there. There's apparently a Super Famicom in here. There's a GameCube, like a Japanese GameCube, and there's like a beta deck in there because it's obviously like old tech that they're like all just storing there.
Well, Tessie's room, his personal room, when you look through that, all of his communications equipment, everything that's in there.
That was mad.
I wanted
what
is this kid doing?
I wanted that gear. I was just like, oh my god. When I was a kid, I was thinking about ham radio.
Yeah,
and I wanted to do it, and he's got all that gear. I was just
all
like,
of it. Broadcast receiver stuff.
There's a CRT monitor on his on the floor, like a 21-inch CRT monitor. And again, this is 2013 time-wise. This is happening.
Outright.
No. I mean, we were we were moving well beyond that. The point is, he's collecting all these things.
Hey, come on! I think I had a CRT in 2013. Hey, what do you say?
Nothing.
Nothing, Grandpa. Oh, shut up.
So we we have the big thing. We're gonna solve everything. The father shuts her down, which of course he does, and I don't.
Check out the background too on that. All the pennants and stuff on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there's a lot there. Let's see if I can stop him there. It's not letting me. Sorry. There we go. But it's kind of amazing because there's not amazing, but when she confronts her father, I was like, if he accepts this, I'm out.
Because there's nothing to lead up to him just whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's having a day at the office. It's like everything's kind of normal, and then she bursts like,
we're all gonna die. Someone just walked into the room. We're all gonna die. You're gonna be like, security.
Exactly.
I'm surprised you didn't just look at her and be like, "Your grandmother put you up to this."
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right.
And that's the thing.
because
is
of the
that-
not so good family relations.
And that's exactly the thing, is that, and it's what Taki, I think, realizes, is that, I have zero relationship with this guy. Like, I have built up no reason for him to listen to me other than the blood relation, which obviously, that's there, but that's not going to dig you out of this hole.
His Mitsuha, stand up straight. Now, back to the election.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, wow, great parenting.
Back to my corrupt administration.
So that fails. And then things aren't going well as they're trying to deal with all this.
In almost literally the 11th hour.
Yeah, exactly. And so they transfer again. And this is another thing that I did not connect with watching it on the first time in the movie. You see how she goes to Tokyo, as we mentioned before, and she kind of looking for him and never finds him. And he kind of appreciates that. And then she actually does meet him. And this is another kind of connection thing where, why does she not realize he's 3 years younger? Because she recognizes him immediately and goes up and says, "It's me."
Yeah.
And there's no like, "Oh, it's you," right? Like, she knows it's him, and there's no acknowledgement of the 3-year time gap, which I found was kind of odd.
Well, it's because their family has this special thing. Like the grandmother had said, "Oh, your mother and I had those dreams too." You know what I mean? So maybe that's we're supposed to read into that. That she somehow
the whole time,
recognizes him.
Well, the whole time that she's going through looking for him, she's thinking, she's actually actively thinking, saying, "What if I'm a bother? What if he just doesn't want to deal with me? What if this is if we just show up? Why he may not be happy to see."
True. The other thing is, I just realized, how often do we look at ourselves? So she only has vague memories of what he looks like anyway. So when she sees him, it's gonna be, "Oh, okay, that's him. I got it," but not necessarily gonna connect the age gap.
You know what they had to do? This is horrible. Yeah. And I'm gonna see if I can say it because it's not 10 o'clock yet. I think they probably could have identified themselves if they were
true.
Yeah.
A little hard to do that
on a train.
Yeah, you're saying a little harder. Yeah.
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
Drop him. What?
You have a star-shaped mole on your left breast. You have to show me your breast right now. Listen, Buster.
That poor girl.
So they finally get their moment. And so here's where the two of them finally make it up here, and I did not connect at the time that it was dusk, which they had established in the movie.
It had to be explained to me too.
Yeah,
I didn't connect.
And at the beginning of the movie, they say dusk is this magical time when there's a a connection between worlds and so forth.
Boundary between worlds. Well, and that's what everything the teacher is writing on the blackboard is all about. The halftime, the tween time, the twilight. All these things are all about that moment.
Yep.
So I didn't notice it either the first time I watched the film. I'm just kind of like, something's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen. And it's only the second time through that I was paying attention to that, being like, okay, here we go. That's right. So now that's why that was able to happen. It's not the sake alone.
Right.
It's the fact that it's the sake in conjunction with the boundary between worlds has gotten thin. So now they can see across it. I'm like, oh.
And the fact that they've never, other than the time 3 years ago, they've never physically been in proximity.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like, oh, okay, there's a chance for this to actually happen. And so they meet each other. And again, I love the direction here, or at least the storyboarding of them talking to each other and having the conversation and writing the names on each other's hands. And she starts writing the letter, and then we see the pen drop.
Yeah, which was...
Now, I got to tell you, at that point, that's when I was like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you do this to me. Don't you dare.
Yep.
I had to deal with Princess Guardia last week.
Yeah.
Do this.
Which is, and again, who among us can accurately judge, when dusk is going to fall? So you can totally see that happening where it's like, oh, it just happened. Like, you misjudged it. And and they're alone.
And hence why you need to carry business cards. Oh,
Exactly,
here's my
yeah.
business card. Take my school ID, please.
Yeah.
Anything.
And yeah, absolutely, Captain Laser Eyes. The backgrounds in this are particularly just detailed and gorgeous, and really just pulling you into this moment of all the visuals. It's just mind-numbingly amazing.
Which tells you why this was such a high-grossing film.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Definitely helped.
Quality was there.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, and so we head back. They decide to put on everything, and again, I appreciate it doesn't work really the first time.
Well, I love the at least Tessie takes this absolutely seriously.
Yeah.
Because he goes and steals gelatin explosives,
Yeah.
something or other, from his, dad's place and blows up a substation. Like, doesn't like
and it's
set
a
like
small
a
enough town
campfire.
that
Yeah, it knocks the entire town's power grid out.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
and everybody's going to know. That's the
Yeah.
other part of this. It's not like he's going to be able to hide from this and go, oh, I don't know.
It's like when his
Because
father
immediately
shows
what
up.
happens, his father is just like it's like, what, come here.
Yeah.
And Tessie also sets the thing that it's a countdown timer. So it's like, okay, they don't just start a campfire and say, oh, it's a forest fire. No. He sets up explosives. He then wires them for a delayed timer
Yep.
that they can get away from this, at least a far enough distance that, you know, attention won't be immediately on them.
Yeah.
And like, he's got an interesting set of skills.
And yeah.
And
Can't do
it
it.
almost
It's
begs the
part-time.
question: has he?
Whatever you do,
It
do
begs
not
the
do
question:
that to
has
your
he?
daughter.
It begs the question: has he thought about doing this?
Right.
That would certainly liven up a small town.
Yeah.
Things
Dude
are
with
boring. Let me
explosive
blow
expertise.
something up.
Yeah. Like, damn.
And it gets to that idea, and it's again what I appreciate about the film and kind of the characters is that you know, Taki's friends would never do this,
No.
Right.
right?
No.
Because it's those very urban relationships where we go to school, we hang out a little bit, it's fine. These people grew up together. They've known each other every second of their lives, and so you know, if you want me to do this, I'll do it. I trust you. No question.
But hey, in defense of Taki's friends, at least, you know, the big guy covered for Taki. At
Oh,
work
totally.
in
Yes.
School.
Yeah. No.
Like they did a lot less dangerous crap.
Oh, I'm
know?
nothing against them. Just different relationships, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I totally agree though that if Taki was like, guys, I need you to help me blow up a substation, they'd be like, no, you're insane.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I love the colors of the booths.
Oh,
It's
just amazing. And so and again, I one of the things that I think was smart here is that, and then once the power goes out and you're like, what's going to happen here? You know, what do we need to make this move forward? We then start getting shots of the bridge and the high school and all these things that we've seen before, and we're like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
We know what happens to that bridge.
bad things are gonna occur.
Things going to occur. So you have all the stuff you'd expect here of it just not working.
Which I mean is played very well because
Yeah.
in all honesty,
Right.
the lights go out and a group of teenagers start yelling, "Get out of the way!" Everybody run for it, evacuate. And you'd be like, "Okay, what are you gonna steal?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you aiming after like my TV or something? What's going on? What prank is this?" Like,
Totally. And so you get basically the opening credit sequence again, or the opening sequence again of the comet coming down, and then you get this. Very Evangelion moment of the destruction. This sort of Daikon 4 moment of just okay.
Well, it was very Akira actually. When it
Absolutely.
hit,
Yes, good
and
point,
then
yeah.
there was silence
Mm-hmm.
as the comes out, and then the shockwave, blast wave comes out, and everything is destroyed, gets destroyed. And what I really liked about this part of the movie was that once that ended, then it ended, and it jumped to the front. So you're just like going, But
what happened?
What,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I was yelling at the television.
Exactly.
I'll be honest, and it's terrible of me.
Mm.
I wanted to see more of it.
Mm.
Like, just I wanted
know what you
more
mean.
detail of that sort of wipeout moment, because you get like the debris as flying past. You see the bridge, and you see a truck,
Yeah.
and it's just like, what was that? Did we see? We must have seen that truck somewhere in town, because there's a reason why it's in that explosion.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything else is in places for reasons, and it's like, so why is that truck? You know what I mean? So I wanted to see more detail of things going off. I wanted to see all
And
the, that's a
Now, did you guys get a sense of like seeing the old atom bomb footage as the
I did not.
Out
No.
and suck up.
Yeah. Now the difference in the atom bomb footage is that they all go one way and then the blast sucks back in.
Yeah.
This just went out, but when they showed the trees and the trees bending before the shockwave hit, and that kind of stuff, I was just like, wow. So they're just showing the destructive power of this thing. But you're right, John. I wanted to see like the organ music playing, and then just things blowing up. Like the end, like at Akira, and just things just.
Yeah, like the shockwave hitting the building and just the glass going out, then the building just crumbling around. Like,
yeah.
Cool.
I was not up for that personally. I was very happy with this level of detail. But yeah, and again, I completely agree. I think it was smart for them to show that and just cut away, because again, that is sort of Taki's experience. Is okay, we know that happened. We don't know what happened afterwards, and he's kind of left there. And so we jump forward to the.
Which when Mitsuha went back to talk to her dad again, I so wanted there to be a split second where instead of grabbing him by the tie, that this time around she slapped him.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like I really wanted that moment to be like, I tried to tell you that something was terrible going to happen. You didn't listen to me. Wham! I'm like, pay attention. Like, yeah. And then they cut away. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, and then you get the denouement that never ends.
Right. Yeah.
As we see Taki as a young adult, he's graduated, looking for a job, and we get sort of what's going on with everybody in his life. Friends got job offers. He's talking to Okudera. She now has a ring on her finger, so she's taken. But they're obviously still close. No problems there. And then we start seeing, and this is again kind of surprised me, and I appreciate this from Shinkai. I expected it to be okay. Some people got out. Maybe Mitsuha did, maybe she didn't, but we know some people got out. No, everyone survived.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, good. I don't have to worry about that at least. They're not leaving me on tenterhooks about that. She's alive. Everyone's alive. Everyone's okay.
Yeah, that'd be horribly cruel. It's like everybody made it because Mitsuha sacrificed
Yes.
herself. You're like, oh, no, I'm not. What? No,
And then you would have heard
ending.
the rage. You would have heard the rage scream all the way down there from up here in Baltimore.
From Baltimore. No.
And then they pass each other once on the covered bridge.
Yeah.
And then you get more stuff of all that going on, and these gorgeous shots of Tokyo in the winter. My gosh. And here's where you start getting all of the, seeing who everyone is. We get to see Yotsuha as a high school student now, which is fun. And now again, sort of the opening, they're all going through their lives. And you're like, what's going to happen? And then they see each other in the trains, which is again kind of a flashback to what we saw before. And they go looking for each other. And I was surprised here when they see each other and then start walking past each other. And when I first saw that, I was like, no, why would they, what's going on? And I was really angry. But watching it this time, I was like, oh, like they know, but they're like, this is going to be so incredibly awkward and weird if I go, I saw you in my dreams and I saved your life. Right? They're like,
Yeah.
mm,
Because if you're wrong, you look like a total
exactly,
ass.
yeah.
Like,
and so they're like, I'm just gonna keep on going. I'm just gonna keep on, walking.
which I mean, again, they see each other on a train, and you're right. Neither of them can honestly guarantee that this isn't also accidental.
Mhm.
Like, if he could know, oh, she ran, and she
Right.
just been running here, then you maybe could piece together, be like, okay, I ran, she ran.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're both on the same wavelength. Something's going on.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know that he didn't run out of some kind of bizarre concept, and that she's just walking home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's totally on her own business. And
Totally.
just you're the nut.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Exactly.
All I can say is that at that point on the stairwell, when they're passing each other, and
Yeah.
they don't do that, and you put it very nicely that you were angry. That was a very nice way of putting it, because I was beyond that. I was way beyond that, and I was just like going, God. And I was kind of cursing your name a little bit, and for making me watch this, and then but then of course it goes back, and you have
That's
that
when the
wonderful
big title card comes up and says, "Stay tuned for episode 2."
At which point I would have been like,
Yeah.
but what's interesting is that of course we get the end, and I'm happy, like the big tightness in my chest, and like the black seething rage that was coming up, and it was like going, okay, it's all right, and and we get the end. But I should say that the one scene at the very end was just them stairwells Tokyo in the background. I used that screenshot as part of one of my where to eat for Otacons. And
Oh, cool.
back in I looked it up. I was like, wait a minute, I think I know this, and I looked it up, and yes, I think it was the 2016 one, where to eat for Otacon, and I never knew, it was, your name at the time.
Wow.
I was just like, holy crap, and sure enough, it's still in my files from
Nice.
from that. And so I was like, afterwards, after I just kind of, all right.
You
And-
recentered your chi.
This is
Yes.
why I think Your Name was a huge success. Because, this is not like Place Promise in our early days. This is not like a lot of his earlier films. It's not like Voices of a Distant Star, where it's this, spoiler alert, it doesn't have a sweet, happy, perfect ending where they're all together for the rest of time.
Yeah.
I think he finally learned, commercially, if you will, to actually give them a happy ending. And I think, again, it's satisfying. It's satisfying on a level that the more realistic thing, which I will totally agree with him, Shinkai said, he's fascinated by stories of romance that aren't all about physical attraction and aren't all about the typical sort of romance stories. He's intrigued by we all have these missed opportunities. We all have these things that don't work out. And so he loves exploring that. But in this one, he gives us the fairy tale ending, which I think I appreciate. And there's the end with those final lines of "Can you tell me your name?" Which I thought was pretty clever.
I want to see the sequel where they have a relationship and their lives go on.
And then they get a divorce, and then
No, then they move to a small town, and they then find out it was built on an impact crate, and the whole thing starts all over again. No.
Like Eva.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
Let's
you know
move
how-
into the third impact area. Oh, okay.
you know how characters from Garden of Words are in this movie?
Right.
okay.
Just saying. Anyway, I want to talk real quick about something Mamoru Oshii said this week. It relates to this movie. Mamoru Oshii of original Ghost in the Shell and lots of other things did an interview actually on April 20th and then got sort of revealed recently. and they're talking about the recent Evangelion movie, and he was talking about how Anno directs his things, and Oshii then said some rather provocative things about Hideaki Anno and Mamoru Hosoda and Makoto Shinkai, where he said he believes that all those three directors' works, they lack a main theme. And he then elaborated and said, to put it in a different way, I can't feel the fundamental motivation they have for creating films. End quote. Now, translation, what exactly does he mean? But watching this film, I think I see where he's coming at, in the sense that when you watch Ghost in the Shell, when you watch when you watch Beautiful Dreamer, you come out of those movies with a clear sense of, Beautiful Dreamer is about, what am I doing with my life? Ghost in the Shell is about, what does it mean to be human? And what does being human even mean? And does it matter? And so forth. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to feel after Your Name. I feel uplifted. I feel good. I feel like I went through this emotional journey. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
But there's no, driving message I got.
No, see, and
love conquers all.
Yeah.
Power of friendship. No, sorry, wrong
Yeah.
one.
No, and that's one of the things. One of my actual takeaways from this movie was that it was good. I would definitely recommend it. As a matter of fact, I would probably see it again if it was on a big screen, because I think that would just magnify the glory of that
detail,
animation.
Yeah.
And of course, I would be that guy in the background going, "Can you just stop the camera for 1 second? We all got to take this scene in."
Yeah.
No, but and I would tell people to see it for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is just a story. It's not, it's been done before. It's not, like I said, I pretty much figured out a lot of the core concepts within the first 15 minutes of the movie. But it's still, a decent story, still a good story, well told.
Yeah.
And it's enjoyable, and you should go see it.
Beauty and the Beast. We all know where that story's going.
Right. Yeah. But it's still, fun to watch. But it's not going to be, you're not going to, like you said, you're not going to walk away with a fundamental thought over something to think about. You're not going to think about, oh gosh, stop and stop for a moment and really think about it. What is there to really think about this movie? There isn't.
Yeah. Be afraid of comments.
Be deathly afraid of comments. And red cords can be really disturbingly look like umbilical cords.
Fire's pain.
And but no, really, there's no big takeaway from this. There's no big payoff. But if you want a story well told and something beautiful to look at,
oh man,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
But for example, this would not be, I would not consider this to be in some the top 10 movies or anything for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would still certainly recommend it.
Sure. Yep.
But I would say also that the soundtrack really is killer on this.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
And I should point out, Oshii says he doesn't necessarily mean this as a criticism. He means this to say that they're making, for lack of a better term, a commercial film, right? This film is meant to connect with these things to make you feel good and come out that was a great ride. It's just not the kind of film Oshii likes to make. Right.
And to be clear, just for people out there in chat land, I'm not saying this is a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. Right. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. It's definitely worth your time.
Yeah.
Well, if you're gunning for an entertainment show, then sometimes if you hit all the right check boxes,
absolutely,
you've entertained. So people got their money's worth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When and where you have the talent and means of producing films that are meaningful and have a greater message, that's awesome. And I can't imagine what the film experience would be like if every single film ever made had stuff like that.
Right.
You got to have some films that are just watch it and let it go.
Yep.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. there's no message to that movie, but boy, is it a great ride.
I mean, thinking pieces are great, but then you have to get away from the thinking pieces with something.
Someday, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you watch Princess Kaguya one weekend and you're very traumatized, and you don't want to look at the moon ever again.
See, that's
Fly
what
me the moon
We do
keeps playing in
Kaguya,
the background.
then we do your name. See, so we have a nice balance there. Yeah, it's actually interesting. I would love for us to at some point just sort of compare and contrast, like those two movies, because it's so fascinating seeing a movie from a 79-year-old Takahata, and I think he's like 42 or something, Makoto Shinkai, who is clearly making a more commercial film, where Takahata is very much not.
Right.
Like these are people just going in opposite directions for a while.
No, I mean, there's a passion piece for somebody who is well seasoned and well into their golden years, versus somebody who's still trying to pay a mortgage,
Right. Yeah.
who has more years to go to do those incredible landmark pieces, but in the meantime needs to eat.
Right.
Right.
And it's one of the interesting things is how Shinkai has managed to make Comics Wave this almost oasis. So, and because I mentioned earlier, we talked about that a little bit. Shinkai's studio, Comics Wave, is known in the industry for being one of the few studios where everyone goes home at 5. They have a very, 40-hour a week, 45, 50, maybe hour a week, kind of an environment where you do your work, you come in, you do your thing, and you go home. And everyone has lives and kids and family and all that kind of stuff. Because Shinkai was like, I don't want to live that way. Like I don't want that life, and so he doesn't establish that, and other people don't establish that. So it's neat.
And they still get stuff done.
They still get stuff done. They do pretty well with their paint jobs, I would say. Their backgrounds are decent.
Yeah.
They're okay.
They're okay. They get the job done.
They are satisfactory.
And just wait till weather with you. My God.
And they do go home at 5. They arrive at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
They go home at 5 a.m.
Right.
Oh, good. Wait a minute. That's 24 hours. Yes, it is. Oh.
Yeah, no. So any other final thoughts on Your Name?
It was a good film. I want to see them married, but that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see them be like in love, the happiness and everything else. But I enjoyed the film the first time. Going to watch it the second time for this, I sat down for a little while yesterday. I was just like, God, do I really want to watch this again? I mean, I remember most of it. I could probably just get through this. And I'm like, no. And then I started. I'm like, yeah, I did enjoy this enough. Even though it made me cry again, I still enjoyed it enough that the second watching, by the time I got to the end of it, I'm like, oh, I want more. I want to see more of the happy. Sure. And so, definitely worth the watch.
Yeah, definitely worth the watch. Although, now that you've said it a couple of times, it's now in my head. I think you actually could make a sequel out of this. I think that there could be, and I think it would be enjoyable. I think, I think there would be something there to it.
As long as you don't have anything to do with your divorce talk. No,
right?
Steve,
Yeah,
bad
no
thinking.
Divorce. No,
bad thinking.
Bad, Steve. Bad. No. Bad I mean, honestly, and I'm gonna have to. What's the other movie called? Words.
Garden of Words.
Garden of Words. So I'm gonna have to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
So and get that, because wouldn't it be kind of neat to have a second movie where it just really incorporates the two movies? Mm-hmm. That would be kind of neat, I think.
Yeah.
Garden of Words is on my list as well from one of those panels. So I haven't gotten there yet, but
I think that's the only. But
no, I was gonna say, and the other thought I had was, I would be very curious to see if they actually still make sake that way. If somebody.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, if not for a shrine, because I would. Would you like to read that label? Hey, look, premium sake. Look at this. It costs $1,500. Why? Well, with the finest rice and mountain fresh water and shrine maiden spit.
Miko spit. Delicious.
This is the good stuff. All right.
Yep.
Do I detect a hint of chiclets?
Oh God.
Somebody had spaghetti. No.
Oh no! No.
Oh. The ultimate flavor. You never know what you're gonna get every bottle. Depends on what people have had. Somebody had natto. Oh.
All right, that will do it.
Brent's like, I'm done.
We're gonna take a quick break for just a few minutes. We'll be right back to talk about more modern anime and the latest anime news. So we will be right back. See you then.